ResortLoop.com is proud to be sponsored by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company. Joffrey's now offers coffee subscriptions. You can order a 3, 6, or 12-month subscription. You can choose from 3 collections, the Flavored Coffee Collection, the Roastmasters Collection, or the Disney Signature Coffee Collection. Each collection includes 3 bags per month. With the Joffrey's Coffee subscriptions, never run out of great coffee again. Learn more and order at Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
We are now passing through the Transportation and Ticket Center on our way to the Polynesian Village Resort Hotel. If you'd like to return to the Transportation and Ticket Center, you may do so by boarding an express monorail at the Magic Kingdom station.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott. This is ResortLoop.com. Once again, the gateway to the magic. I am thrilled today, highly excited to be joined by a member of the DVC Roundtable. Recently got back from his trip to Walt Disney World, stayed at a couple different resorts. Joining us right now, you know him, you love him. You can't live without him. We can't live without him on the DVC Roundtable. It's Mr. Brad Coates.
Hey, everybody.
Brad, thanks for joining us.
You can live without me, though. I'm pretty sure.
Nah, not really. Come on. We need good people in our lives. You're good people.
Well, thank you, Tim.
And I'm very thrilled. And I'm very excited you're here because we're going to talk about, you had seems like a great trip. You stayed at a couple different resorts. You did some Disney things. You were there during this whole, we'll just say current times.
Yes. And nothing normal about it. So let's stop calling it a new normal. It better not stick.
I don't like calling it new normal either. Everyone knows my stance on that. We're transitioning back to our old normal. Let's go with that.
There you go.
Slowly, but we're going to get there. So, Brad, how'd this trip come about? Was this planned beforehand? Was it planned late? How'd this all go down?
Yeah, so it actually, it wasn't even planned at all. I had, where I'm at right now in my life, I've got 5 weeks of vacation, and my wife, she only gets 2, so there's always like 3 weeks of vacation in there that I can do stuff and she can't. So that was kind of part of it. And then I wasn't even considering going to Disney because I live in New Mexico, and right now in New Mexico, anytime you travel outside of the state, whether you drive or fly now, when you come back, you have to quarantine for 14 days. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, that's a lot of the reason why Disney's struggling, I'm sure, right now with different policies like that for people that are going back home. So anyway, it wasn't going to happen, but turns out that my daughter, her college in Texas, did contact us about a month and a half ago and say, we are going back to live campus classes, gave us all their criteria. And when we looked at it, we felt comfortable with the decisions they were making. And so our daughter, and she really wanted to get back to school. So I had to take her back to college. Well, I'm driving over to Dallas, Texas to take my daughter to college. And when I come back, I'm going to have to quarantine.
Oh.
So so I'm already going to have to quarantine, right?
Right.
So I thought, well, I wonder. So I pulled up my old Southwest.com, took a look to see what flight costs were from Dallas to Orlando, and my flights were $45 each way.
Wow.
And I said to myself, I think since I already have to quarantine,
right,
I need to get something out of this quarantine more than took my daughter to college. So I started planning it. It was pretty late to plan it, and I was using my DVC points. And so I was trying to keep this as cheap as I could. And I had some points still left. So I kind of expected I was going to get stuck, staying Saratoga Springs and going to where, whatever was left, because being so late in the booking, well, that just made it even more sound, because when I went on, I was blown away at what was available for me to stay in, some of which we'll talk about here in a minute, I've never stayed in. As long as I've had a contract with Animal Kingdom to get the 11-month window, there's certain things there that I've never been able to stay in for the last, 4 or 5 years I've owned. So it worked out real good. I was able to book my DVC rooms. My plane ticket was $45, and I already had credits that they had to give me back on a canceled trip. So my flight was free, my hotel price was covered, and the only thing I had to pay for was my ticket and food.
Wow. That's like a bonus vacation you weren't even kind of planning.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a lot easier to sell to my wife.
There you go. Exactly.
I love you, honey, but is it okay if I go without you?
She's probably like, be careful. Wear your mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Play nice.
So.
Make good friends.
Yeah. Make good decisions.
There you go.
Decisions, like tell our kids, right?
Right, exactly. So what was your first resort that you decided to, or you were able to stay at?
So I decided, and of course, I part of my excuse in doing this is I am a travel planner.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people already know that. So part of my excuse was to do some research. I actually do have a couple of clients that are going during this pandemic time. In fact, one is there right now, and another couple going on their honeymoon is going in about a month and a half. And so to find out, okay, how does this really work? How hard is it going to be? Flights and everything. So I did a split stay. All that to say, I tried to spread it out so I could try different things and to give them better input. First resort I stayed at was Animal Kingdom, my favorite resort. But for the first time ever, I was able to book an Animal Kingdom value room studio.
Oh, highly coveted.
Highly coveted. It's hard to tell. Are they really that highly coveted, or is it because they only got like 4 of them?
Well, they're going to advertise them as highly coveted, but yes.
But I will tell you, when I book on at the 11th month window, 30 seconds in to try to book it in the past, they were gone. Those in club level, pretty much you could never find. So I was able to book the value room, and I booked that for 2 days. And since I was going by myself, I said, well, this is a perfect time to give the value room a try to see how it turned out.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So a little bit of info on the value room. Most people wonder what is that, and it's DVC only. So I don't think anybody would ever be able to rent this room. They're gone for DVC members long before they could ever use them in inventory to get cash customers into there. They were the refitted rooms at the Jumbo House. When DVC expanded, the first expansion they did was inside the already existing Animal Kingdom Lodge. And so some of the rooms were smaller. They're like a hotel room. They are, remember I said I thought it was about 5 square feet difference. It's 50 square feet difference.
Oh, wow.
A normal Animal Kingdom studio is 365. And the value rooms are 314. However, I've got a sneaky feeling if I look and see an Animal Kingdom Lodge cash room, they're probably about that same square footage, around 315. So, because that's what it felt like. It just felt like it was refitted. It did have, it didn't have a lot of the things that you see in the 1 bedrooms and stuff. Didn't have the full kitchen, but it did have the fridge and all of that. But yeah, it was a little smaller. You really didn't notice it, but since I was by myself, definitely didn't notice it. So
right, it's plenty big then.
Yeah. So it worked out really good.
Nice. What's your view in this type of room? Like, what'd you see outside your door?
And that was the other thing. I was like, well, I wonder what the views are going to be like in these rooms, because they don't really say. They don't have different levels that you can pick. Well, my view was the swimming pool.
Nice.
Yeah. I was like, well, bonus.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. So yeah, with no parking lot. I wasn't looking out on the roof with air conditioning units or something.
Not over the loading dock.
They are on the 5th floor, so they're elevated up nice and high. And so now, of course, I'm on the other side, so I'm seeing the pool. So I'm not seeing anything on the Savannah because that's on the opposite side of the building. But yeah, it was a nice view of the pool, and I didn't see a lot of the pool because there's lots of trees over there too, being up at the 5th floor. But it was pretty. It was a nice view.
So as you're walking in the Jumbo House, you'd go to the right, kind of to get to your room?
Correct. Yes, you go to the right bank of elevators that are right by the shop, the curio shop, whatever you want to call it. If you get in that elevator, if any of you have ever been there, you'll see a little card scanner there, and it says the club rooms. And that's what we talked about, the club level, the concierge level at Animal Kingdom. And just side note, this is the only resort where DVC has a concierge, level rooms that you can actually book DVC. Well, that is on the 6th floor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the 5th floor, right under it, that's where all the DVC rooms are. So basically, I go up to the 5th floor, I turn left, and then there's an immediate left down a hallway. And I was like the 3rd room down. So I was maybe 40 yards from the elevator, maybe.
That's what I was wondering, because you've been to Jumbo House. Some of those rooms are way down.
Yeah, not as bad as Kidani. I think Kidani's worse, but yes, Jumbo. Yeah, it's like there are benches in the hallway, and there's a reason.
Right.
You got to take a breather. It's like, holy God, did we change time zones? But yeah, these rooms are really close. I don't know if all of them are, but I would imagine they are right there. So that was another bonus in that it was right there by the elevator. It was like I'd come out of my room, and within less than 5 minutes, I was already at the bus stop, clear down the hill to get there at Jumbo. So yeah, it was a nice location.
So staying in those rooms and realizing that they were 50 square feet smaller, would you maybe just more recommend them for couples rather than families?
Yeah, because it was pretty tight. If you had small children, that were real small, basically think of it in terms of, do you go to places and stay in a hotel room? But understand, with these studios, they're never 2 queen beds.
Right.
They're always 1 queen. I think this one was a queen, not a king. Some of them are king. But then there's a fold-out couch bed. So, and Disney's fold-out couch beds are surprisingly comfortable. But if you had full-grown kids and you were all my kids that are now, 21 and 25, and if they went with us, that would be way too crowded. So a couple would be great. If you had small kids, maybe. Depends upon if they're comfortable sleeping with each other.
Right. Sometimes that's a little iffy by itself.
As they get a little older, yep.
Yeah, we would travel with an arrow bed just in case. How was what restaurants were open when you were there?
Oh, now, that's probably if there was a downside to this trip that was dining.
Mm-hmm.
So at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, over at Kidani, you have Sanaa. And then at Jumbo, you have the Mara, which is a quick service. You have Boma, and you have Jiko. And the only restaurant between the 2 resorts, and keep in mind, to get to Kidani, you got to take a shuttle bus, or it's about a 7 to 10 minute walk. I walked over there one night. It wasn't bad, but it took a while. Mm-hmm. The only restaurant was Sanaa. That was it. The Mara wasn't open, so there's no quick service. And
wow.
Those restaurants open, or those hotels open. And then Sanaa was the only table service open. So that was a drawback. I didn't eat at any of them. I did sort of. Sanaa is famous for its bread service. Mm-hmm. And after the restaurant closes at 9, then you can order. I think you can actually do it before then, but you can order ahead and order a to-go order of the bread service. So that's what I did. I ordered it. That's when I walked over there. I got it. Came back to my hotel and just enjoyed it in my hotel room. But yeah, restaurants were limited.
Well, I'm surprised the Mara wasn't open.
Yeah, and that was a shock for me because, you think about it and all the, you got to, they're thinking in terms of you have to be careful with contact and all of that. But other places were open that are similar. Mm-hmm. None of the buffets were open in the table service and stuff. But I shouldn't say that. I think there was a couple of them open. Now that I think of it. But yeah, it was weird. No Mara, so no quick service. So you're like, if you wanted to get a quick snack, you had to go to their little shopping store where you'd buy cereal and milk and something to microwave. And
right. Yes.
Not why I go to Disney.
No, absolutely not. Before we get to your next resort, how was the transportation to the parks you were going at while you were staying at the Animal Kingdom Lodge?
So from the Animal Kingdom Lodge to the parks?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, and I will mention one other thing. Mm-hmm. The first night when I got there and I was going to be spending the night there, of course, flying from where I'm flying from, and you almost never go into the parks by the time I'm there. So that first night I took a bus from Animal Kingdom to Disney Springs for dinner. I had dinner at Paradiso 37.
Ooh.
And so I was sweating it because I'd heard a lot of horror stories. The buses they're very much limiting how many people they put on. I think the way it was broken down, it's either 6 sections or maybe 7 on an entire bus. And then that's just, okay, one family unit sits in that section. So I was by myself. So I would take up an entire section. Because if they put me in that section, they didn't put anybody else there. No matter if there's another single going on, they didn't put them next to me. So I would take up 5 to 6 seats and nobody else could sit in them. So bus, there's not a lot of people getting on the buses at a time. So I was nervous, but to be honest with you, that night was the longest I ever waited for a bus. I waited about just under 20 minutes for a bus to downtown Disney, or to Disney Springs. And of course, there was nobody else there waiting to get on. And to be honest, I was there in the evening, and there was nobody else there at the bus station for any of the parks at all. So that was it. I was the only person standing down there. So then the next day, I went to Animal Kingdom. That's tricky because if people don't know how the bus works. Normally, I won't get into the other part, but when the bus transports you to Animal Kingdom, it goes to Kidani Village first, then it comes to Jambo to pick those people up, and then it goes to Animal Kingdom. When it brings you back, it does the opposite, okay?
Okay.
Well, the drawback is there's limited numbers of people that get on a bus. And the concern and the people were talking about, I don't know if you've been noticing, but people were talking about how if they had problems with the buses, it was first thing in the morning because everybody's trying to get to the park, right?
Oh, right. And you're going to pick up like quarter loads of people.
Exactly. So if they're going to Kidani first and the bus is already full, then they only come to Jumbo and just let you know you can't come on, bye. Or they don't even come.
Right.
So it's like, so I was a little nervous. I went down extra early, only to find out. I got down there an hour and 45 minutes before the park opened. I was down in the bus area, only to find out the buses do not even start running until an hour before.
Oh, wow.
The lucky thing is Animal Kingdom is right there, so it's a very short drive.
Right.
I knew either way I was going to get there early, but I just knew I didn't want to get stuck, I didn't know if I was going to be 4th or 5th bus to come before I could go. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and at this time I'm definitely the only person in the bus station. And a bus rolls up probably an hour and 35 minutes before the park's supposed to open, and it rolled up. And I'm like, oh, he's not even supposed to be here, but hey, cha-ching, I scored again. So he opens the doors, and I said, are you going to Animal Kingdom Resort? I'm going to the park. He said, yes. I said, oh, okay, all right. Well, I get on the bus. Well, as I get on the bus, one of his supervisors pulls up next to him. He says, hold on a moment. He goes out and he starts talking to this guy, and he comes back in. He goes, well, I guess I blew it. He says, this isn't my normal route. I just took it for somebody, and they gave me the bus way early, so I just figured I'd run extra runs, but I was just told I'm not supposed to be running yet.
Oh.
But he said, since you're on the bus, I might as well just take you. So he took me over. So I was definitely the first one there at Animal Kingdom at the gate. By then, I'm pretty early. I'm over an hour before the park opens. So I'm maybe there were 6 people there besides me, 6 or 8. Mm-hmm. Well, they opened up, and normally at Animal Kingdom they'll let you in, right? And then they'll have you been there, and they'll let you in, and then they start to set you up before Avatar because that's where everybody's rushing.
Right.
They won't let you start into Avatar until the park open time, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this time they literally opened the gates, let us in. Probably 50 minutes early, 45 minutes early.
Oh, wow.
That was about 45 minutes early. They opened up the front gates, let us in. So I'm expecting, okay, I'm going to get up to Avatar, and I'm going to get stopped because my goal was I'm going to do everything, but then I'm going to ride Flight of Passage as much as possible because normally if you get one ride in, the time you go, you're lucky. I mean, it's just such a headache, an hour and a half, 2-hour waits. And
Right. You had a successful day if you rode it once.
yeah, exactly. And if you got a fast pass 60 days in advance, you had you won the lottery. And it was brutal with that ride. So as I walk back to Animal Kingdom, I'm expecting to get stopped, and they never stopped us.
Oh.
So I kept walking, and then I'm getting there, and then I see cast members at the front of the lines, and finally I get to Flight of Passage, and they point for me to get on. I went, okay. So by then it's probably 35, 40 minutes before the park opens. I go up, and then that switchback that goes up to get in that ride, just going through the queue, it's like just to walk it without stopping. It's over 5 minutes. It's just like back and forth. There's like 7 minutes, just back and forth through the building, back and forth, catacomb, back and forth, and finally you get where they're setting up, and they go, okay, how many in your party? You go in this line. How many in your party you go in this line? I get there, and of course, basically me and a few others that were headed that way. We're all the first ones. So we get on the ride, we ride it, and so I come down, and I'm walking down the hall to leave. And if you've ever not ridden Flight of Passage, it has a long exit, and then it exits. Basically, you can skip it, but it's really tries to force you into their shop, so you'll shop and buy things.
Right.
But it's a pretty long walk down there, right, from the ride?
Yep.
I mean, another thing, it's like everything in Animal Kingdom has long hallways. What's the deal? About halfway, before you ever go outside, there was a cast member standing in the hallway, and he said, "Would you like to ride again?" And I said, "Yes, I would."
Funny you should ask.
Down this hallway. Yeah, funny you should ask. That's my goal today. So he points down the hallway, and so I looped around. And then when I went down that hallway, it popped out right by where they go, okay, the setup line where they're going, how many in your party? You go in this line. How many in your party? So literally it cut off like 5 to 7 minutes of walking or more, because I still had to get to the entrance from go through the last part of the shop and get to the entrance. Probably shaved off more than 10 minutes of just walking around in a circle. I went back, I rode it again. Came back out. Would you like? Why, yes, I would. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I rode Flight of Passage 10 times in a row.
Wow.
And it was probably about the 4th time or 5th time when the official park opening was. And then by the time I'd gone 10 times, every time I'd pop out, there was more people there for sure. Mm-hmm. But I always got there, didn't have to wait, sent me down a hall, waited maybe 1 or 2 cars of people in front of me. And of course, with the cars, it's a little bit more limited. So anyway, we just loaded it. So I rode it 10 times in probably an hour. That
was one productive hour, my friend.
Yeah, a little bit over.
Wow.
Hour, yeah. So then I thought, okay, I'm actually starting to get a little queasy. I wanted to go for the Guinness World Book of Records and just ride it all day. So I could do, 50 rides in a day or something. But I thought, I got to go try everything. So I went out. I went and rode. I went straight to Navi River Journey. That was my longest queue for the day for a ride, and I waited 20 minutes.
Wow.
For that ride. Then I went to Kilimanjaro, straight walk on. Went to Expedition Everest, walk on, rode it twice. Went to Dinosaur, walk on. I even went to It's Tough to Be a Bug. The only thing I really didn't go to was the whole the Dino Land stuff. I don't like any of that.
Gotcha.
Triceratops and all that stuff. Anything that just spins in a circle, those are not my rides. Those are the ones that'll get me sick. So I just think, no, spinning cups, go ahead.
Right.
Take the kids. I'll be right here filming you. So then after I did them all, and then I went and had lunch at Satui Canteen, and by then it's about noon, and I went, okay, time to go back to Flight of Passage. So I went back to Flight of Passage, rode it 5 more times, and by that time I went, okay, I think I think the last ride, I'm like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes with this last part because my stomach is not liking this. So
what more do I have to prove?
So I had to settle for 15. I'm sorry, fans.
Oh, that's outstanding.
It's just sad. And so I rode everything basically you could ride. I rode Flight of Passage 15 times, and I was out of the park by 2:30.
Look at that.
Yeah. And of course, the park didn't open, I think, until like 9, I think it was. I'll need to bring that up, but park times were. But yeah, so very productive day.
Now, after you left the park, did you go back at all, or were you just done for the day at that point?
No, at that point, of course, then I will say, let me just say this to kind of set it up for the rest of the things we talk about. I don't know if you're going to talk about it later, but, right now with Walt Disney World, you are required to wear a mask. And let me say, I was very, very impressed with the way they were making sure, the way people were acting. Kids were all wearing masks. Adults were all wearing masks. There was maybe in the 3 days in the park, I could count on one hand how many times I saw a cast member go up to somebody. Mm-hmm. And usually because they had it down off the nose, just on their lip.
Gotcha.
Or there wasn't anybody like not wearing one or had it on their head trying to, mock them. But with the way they handled it was always very kind and very gentle, and people always responded. So, and what was it like wearing a mask all day long in the parks? Well, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but part of that was because I was never in a park for the whole day.
Okay.
I got everything done. So it's not like this is the first time and the last time I'll ever go to Disney World. So it wasn't like I felt like, I got to get in as much as I can. I got to, commando from park open to park close. I just went, you know what? I've ridden everything I wanted to do. I've gotten satisfaction like never before out of this park. I'm good. So, and then the second thing was with Orlando compared to Disneyland, that is one thing I have to say about them. Their queues and everything, they've really worked hard to build a lot of air-conditioned areas for queues and for the rides. And so I would go out in the heat for a little while, and I was back where it was air-conditioned. So, and have you seen these little fans that are the big thing now that hang around your neck? And
Yes.
They've got two little fans you point to your face?
Yes.
Go buy one.
Really?
I used to use those wet towels, that you'd snap and they get cold. And
Oh,
cool in
yeah,
your neck.
yeah.
Yeah, have you ever tried those?
I've not tried them, but I've seen many people try them. And they used to, I always heard people love those.
Here's the thing for me, though. They were great, but I always found that within about 5 minutes, they weren't cold anymore.
Right. I can
and then
imagine.
my neck is just wet and raw, and then you just have to snap it or get water on it and put it on your neck. And it was nice, though you were constantly, I felt like I was always having to find a place to put more water on it. And with the fan, I didn't use it out in the heat, but as soon as I went into a ride where it was air conditioned, I turned that fan on to my face, and by the time I got on that ride, my entire face, my ears were cold. I mean, ice cold. My face was cold. My mask was cold. And so every time I get done with the ride, I'm invigorated and ready to go. But yeah, so I never did close any parks. By the time I got everything done and I wanted to do, and there really was nothing left to do except for to do the same stuff over and over, I just called it a day. So 2:30, I went home, went back to the resort. That's when I discovered how difficult it was to try to. I had eaten at Satui Canteen, which is one of my. It probably is my favorite quick service.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just going to go back to Animal Kingdom and grab something, and I didn't realize yet that the Mara wasn't open. I just figured it was open.
I would assume as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, when I got there, no, it wasn't.
Oh, wow.
Then I was like, oh, great. And they don't really have a store for you to shop for food at Jumbo. So you have to go to Kidani for their little grocery store thing to buy anything that you could make to eat. So
right.
That was the night I ended up ordering the bread service and having it late. So
yeah, there's worse things to order.
yeah, that was good.
Okay, so that was the Animal Kingdom.
That was day one.
That was day one. Now, after the Animal Kingdom Lodge, you stayed at another DVC. You didn't stay at one, you stayed at the two.
Yep. So, and we've always been big fans of doing split stays because we just like to, we like to. Plus, part of this was very strategic for me because of what I was afraid of for bus service. So, the second resort, and for those of you that know about split stays, I'm a big proponent of it. Some people have had problems, but I have never had a problem. What you do is that, I was there 2 days at Animal Kingdom, so I just didn't unpack everything. And then I had to bring my bag down that next morning to guest services, to Bell Services, hand them the bag and say, I need this transferred to Riviera Resort. And so then during the day, while I'm off at the park, then I got on a bus, went to the park, and then my bag headed to Riviera Resort. So I had to ride a bus that day. So I was going to be in Riviera Resort after that park day. The second park day was Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
So I did have to ride a bus from Animal Kingdom to Hollywood Studios, and that was the only one I was nervous about being difficult. And piece of cake.
Oh, wonderful.
Got on the first bus that was there. There was more people down there waiting for buses, but if you'd have seen how few they were, you'd have been going, wow, was there a nuclear explosion? Is there a hurricane announced for Orlando? Nobody's here. I mean, it was very... Oh, and by the way, inside the parks, there were people, but it was never crowded. You never, the anxiety level that you normally feel on a Disney World trip never showed up.
Wow.
You just never felt it because you were never waiting in line for anything. There weren't people like rubbing up against you and crowding you and people yelling at their kids and you know how much I pay for this. And it just wasn't like that at all. So anyway, I got over to Hollywood Studios real quick.
Fantastic.
So you want to talk about Hollywood Studios?
Yeah, so let's talk about Hollywood Studios real quick, and then I want to hear about Riviera. Your take on Riviera.
Yeah, we'll talk about my experience when I got to there. So I go into Hollywood Studios that day. I get there. This time I'm about, 20 minutes before, 30 minutes before rope drop. I'm inside past the gate. They're another park where they'll let you in early, and then they stage you back in front of the Chinese theater area. You walk straight down the main street, and then there's a Chinese theater. The new Mickey and Minnie Railway ride is right there. And then there's a path to the right that'll take you to Toy Story Land, and then a path to the left that takes you to one of the entrances to Star Wars Land. And that's where they would split that, and people would go to each entrance to those areas, and then they would hold you until park open hit. So the minute park would open, they would then release you to go to either one of those areas. But for anybody that doesn't know what's going on with Hollywood Studios, their newest ride is Rise of the Resistance. And it is still, just like it was before the pandemic hit, it is still what they call a boarding group only. So exactly at park open, I'm pulling up that right now. So park opened at 10. So at exactly 10 a.m. on the My Disney Experience app, there's a button there that talks about the Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, join a boarding group. And you have to click on that as fast as you can. Here's a little tip. Most people already know this, but if you're new out there, here's a good tip. Turn off your Wi-Fi for the parks, because that gets hammered when everybody tries to get on at once. If you, for a few minutes, use your own data service, because you'll be quicker and more effective. So right at 10 a.m., you have to click to get a boarding group. Well, there's less crowds, but they've split the boarding group. Normally right at 10 a.m. they have, we'll just throw out a number. Let's say they're going to have 150 boarding groups for the day. Well, then within what, 2 minutes? Have you been there to have to do a boarding group yet, Tim?
Not yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, usually within 2 minutes, 150 of them are gone at 10 a.m. They're just gone.
Amazingly fast.
Yeah. It's like if you stutter, you're not going to get one. If you show up late, you're not going to get one. So, well, now they split it. They do some at 10 a.m. and they do some at 2 p.m. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did.
But so I'm going, oh my gosh, those things are going to disappear even faster, because even if the crowds are smaller, the point is, everybody's piled in that park at 10 a.m. and they're all trying to get it, and only 150 boarding groups got it. Now, only 75 boarding groups are going to get it.
Wow.
So even if there's less people in the park, half the number of people in the park, there's still thousands of people in that park trying to get it.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I'm like, oh, this is going to be nuts. So what they did was, anyway, I walk back there, and I'm trying to decide, am I going to walk towards Star Wars Land and try to get over to Millennium Falcon and ride it first before I get my boarding group, and then boarding group, you get it, then you usually, your boarding group, when you get it, then you're usually going to have to wait an hour to 3 hours before you actually ride, or more. So you got to go ride at the rides. So am I going to go to Toy Story Land, try to ride, Slinky, or am I going to try to go to Star Wars Land and ride Millennium first and while I'm doing that, get my boarding group? Well, when I got to the Chinese theater, I looked up, and they had the doors open, and the cast members were leading people into Mickey and Minnie Railway, which, for those of you that aren't aware yet, that has become, yes, Rise of the Resistance is the hardest to get because it's a boarding group only, but the single longest wait times at Hollywood Studios right now, Mickey and Minnie.
Right, people are loving it.
Yeah, and even right now, when everything's a walk-on, it's easily within an hour after the park opens, it's 40, 50-minute wait for that, and it'll stay that way all day long. So it's when you have to wait for it. Well, I saw the doors were open. I went, okay, well. So I walked over to the cast member, and I said, when I get inside, will I still be able to do my boarding group? And he said, oh, yeah. So we got Wi-Fi inside. So I went inside. Well, I went straight to the front. I literally I was like, when I got to the front, I was the third card to load. So I was maybe 2 minutes. Rode the ride, and by the way, it's fantastic. I love it. It's not an e-ticket thrill ride, but it's a Disney ride. It was really cool how they've done it. But by the time I got out, it still wasn't time for the park to open.
Wow.
So I hustled over to the Millennium Falcon, right?
Uh-huh.
I get to the Millennium Falcon with about 3 minutes before the park's going to open, before 10 a.m. And they're loading. And I said, now, if I go in there, am I going to have a problem getting my boarding group? And he looked at me and he said, well, you may not have a problem, but I'm not sure because there's a lot of metal. If you've been in that queue, it's a lot of stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I'm not going to chance it. So I just stood over to the side and waited for 3 minutes, jumped on, boom, got my boarding group. Boarding group 33.
Hey.
And then said, okay, I'm set with that. Walked right on to Millennium Falcon, went to the front. It was a 5-minute wait, got on the ride, and basically I've ridden it multiple times, but I've never been able to be the pilot. Mm-hmm. And that's the premium place you want to be because the thing you do, that's right. You haven't been to that land yet, right?
Not yet. No, some plans had to change this year.
Yeah. So you probably, though, have already heard with that particular ride, everybody has something to do like you do on the mission to space or whatever.
Yeah, mission space.
What do they call that one?
Mission space. Mm-hmm.
At Epcot. But when you do your things at Mission Space, it doesn't change anything. It's like you didn't do it or...
Right.
Well, when you don't do things on the Millennium Falcon, it changes the result. So you could crash into something or you slam against something or lose what you were trying to grab if you didn't do your procedure first. Well, most of the people in the ship are just doing like one or two small things, but there's two pilots. One pilot's left and right, one pilot's up and down. And you actually really affect the outcome. They did design it where you will always finish your mission. You can't have some idiot just trying to crash you and destroy you and then nobody has any fun. You just earn less credits at the end because you're on a mission and you're going to get paid for bringing back what you're out there to get. And you'll get less because you banged and crashed too much. There's too many repairs, but you still get to finish. Well, I'd never been able to be the pilot because there's only two of them.
Right.
And so I got there, and of course, it's not a lot of people with me, but I went, I'd really like to be the pilot. And she looked at me and goes, oh, I don't think that'll be a problem. Which one would you like? I said, well, let me try the left or right. So she takes me in and sits me down, and I'm going, okay, go on, the pilot. Okay, I'm looking at the other pilot seat, and it's about 4 or 5 feet away. I'm thinking, well, are they going to seat somebody next to me that close? Or because some of the rides, they were never closer than that, but I was the only person they put on the ship.
Wow.
They were only putting family units on. So if there's 4 in your party, you would go on to one ship.
Okay.
There's 3 in your party. So everything else was automated, and then I piloted left and right. When I got off, I went down, went straight back in, went back up, another 4, maybe 5-minute wait, said, put me pilot on the right. And then I got to pilot on the right. So I got to, by then it's maybe 10:30, half hour after the park's open, and I've already ridden Mickey and Minnie. I've already ridden Millennium Falcon twice.
Wow. And you've got your boarding group all set.
And I have my boarding group. So then I went, I did Slinky Dog, and I did Swirling Saucers, and then I did everything else in the park except for Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, which is over, for anybody that hasn't been there, it's down a street over kind of by itself, so it's a long ways from everything else now. So I say a long ways, it's just everything else is real compact, and that one thing is just kind of this leg that sticks out there and goes, it's the redheaded cousin, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I did all the rides before my boarding. I was actually in my ride for my second ride on Slinky Dog Dash when my boarding group went off. And you have an hour after it tells you your boarding group is loading to get there and ride. So I finished my ride on Slinky Dog. None of the rides, including Slinky Dog, did I wait longer than 20 minutes. Most of them were 13 to 15 minutes, for even Slinky Dog were the longer ones, and then the rest were walk-ons. So I went over and I got on my boarding group, and I was interested to see how they did that, and they were very creative. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but they were always very careful with their safe distancing. With all the rides, there's always reduced numbers in each ride vehicle. Set you at dots, like on the Rise of the Resistance, one of the room, everybody goes in the first ship. Well, there was dots on different parts of that room, and you stood on your dot, and you experienced it from wherever the dot was. They didn't pile in, 30, 40 people in there like they normally do. They put in a dozen, and you stood on your dot.
Wow. I
finished that, went over, did Rock and Roller Coaster, basically a walk-on, did Tower of Terror, another walk-on.
Man.
And it was, I went to lunch, so I don't even remember which one of the ones there on the street down to Tower of Terror. And, they got several of those little places there. One of them had some fresh fruit and stuff. I think it's Fairfax or something like that.
Oh, Fairfax Market, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, Fairfax Market. Yeah, so I had something to eat there and snacks, and then I rode the last 2 rides. And then when I was done with the last 2 rides, I was like, well, do I really want to go back and ride anything else? By then, the only thing I really wanted to ride again would have been that I could ride. I'd already done Millennium twice, and I was cool with that. I would love to go back and do Mickey and Minnie, but by then it was a 50 to 60 minute wait. In fact, the whole day after I did my ride, and I came out of Star Wars land maybe at that 10:30 when I was done with everything else. When I came out of that land, oh man, the line was way, and that's one where it does the queue, because we have to safe distance, goes way out into the street, and there's a big open area in front of Chinese Theater there, right? Mm-hmm. Where they do the Star Wars show and everything. That's all queue, and you're just standing out in the sun.
Oh wow.
For 50 minutes.
I would say time to go to Riviera.
Yeah. So I was done. It's probably 3:00.
Okay.
And so and the main reason I picked Riviera was Skyliner.
Yeah.
I wanted something with a Skyliner access, and so it was perfect. And I've never stayed at Riviera. And strangely enough, another one of the sought after, difficult to get rooms is their new their tower studio rooms. Now, you talked about the fact that the AK value is only good for 2 people. Mm-hmm. the the tower studio rooms are only built for 2 people.
Right.
Whereas my AK value was 315 square feet, 314. The Riviera Tower Studio is 225 square feet.
That's like a cabin or a stateroom size.
Exactly. It's the best. When people ask, I say the best way I can describe it, it's a roomy Disney cabin on a Disney cruise.
Right.
Which is bigger than other cruise ships.
Right, exactly.
Still not big. It's too very small. The bed, you go in, there's no bed, and it's a Murphy bed that folds down over the top of the couch. It collapses the couch and becomes a bed. And then when the bed's down in that living room area, if you want to call it that, there's maybe 3 feet, maybe 4 between the end of the bed and the wall where the TV is.
Wow.
To walk around it. So it's got a little small patio. The bathroom's pretty good size, but the room is small. The only bad thing with that first day, I was excited, so I was going to just hop on the Skyliner and take the Skyliner back over to Riviera, which is maybe a 10-minute ride. And heads up with the Skyliner, never a wait.
Wow,
Ever.
just constantly moving.
They're constantly moving, and they're really designed to really go with usually family groups anyway, so it really didn't slow it down. So they're just moving. So, well, I got on the Skyliner at Hollywood Studios, and just as it's about to leave the station, the girl who loaded me, the cast member, yells out, "Oh, by the way, when you get to Caribbean Beach, you got to take a bus."
Oh, no.
And I went, what? And the door closed.
And you're off.
Gone. I'm like, what was she talking about? Because you go to Caribbean Beach, and then it's a way station there where you get on another Skyliner and go to the next place. Well, when I got there, sure enough, I found out later it's because of storms in the area. So if it's within a certain distance, they start shutting stuff down, which makes sense. I really don't want to be a lightning rod in one of those Skyliners.
That's true.
A lightning storm comes. So they had shut it down. I was okay to go there, but then from there on, they were shutting everything down.
Gotcha.
So I got there, and they said, no, you can't ride from here. So said, go down the hill here, turn left, and there's a bus stop there, and the bus will pick you up. Well, I went down to the bus stop. Well, if anybody's been to Caribbean Beach, have you stayed at Caribbean Beach, Tim?
It's been a long time, not since they've redone it.
So Caribbean Beach is very spread out, and there's lots of bus stops inside the resort. So it's a loop.
Yes.
Well, I get down to the bus stop, and it's an internal bus stop.
Oh.
With no information anywhere saying, here's where you catch a bus to Riviera. So I asked a cast member that was walking by down there, and they said, yeah, you probably are going to have to walk it.
Well, thank you. Well, with this impending storm.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be about a 20-minute walk, probably, at least. I mean, it's Caribbean Beach.
Yeah.
So you go way out past two or three of their zones, and then head to Riviera. I was like, have you lost your mind in this heat? No. So I was not a happy camper. So I waited. A bus came, an internal bus. I just asked him, I said, do you go to Riviera? And he says, no, we don't. He says, and I said, well, where do I meet that bus? Where do I go? He says, I have no idea. We don't do that. because it's not something they normally do. It's something that popped up with an emergency, so they were creating it.
Right.
There was not normally a bus. So it was just being sent there. So anyway, he said, I can take you to the Aruba area, which is the last of the Caribbean, and then you could walk from there. So that's what I did. I got on, rode to Aruba, and then it was only about a 5-minute walk to Riviera. By the time I got to Riviera, let's just say I wasn't a pleasant customer.
You're a little crispy.
Yeah,
a little saucy.
Crispy. Walked inside the Riviera, and wow, I've never seen so many cast members working a lobby than I ever seen at Riviera. They were the nicest people. They de-escalated me very quickly.
Oh, good.
And said, we are so sorry, and and we're just learning how to do these things, and we apologize. And they were real cool about it, but they didn't offer me an upgrade. What's up with that?
They didn't.
They did not.
Everybody I know has been upgraded to that grand
suite. I did have to check in with them. So anyway, So I headed up to 7th floor
Mm-hmm.
to my studio tower room, which is it's kind of like it's a rounded corner like you see on a fort. You know, where
Okay.
the corners of a fort where it's got a kind of a rounded thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's one corner on the resort that's like that. It's rounded. Well, that's those rooms. And then, so they're on the corner that's either directly facing Epcot or facing more towards Magic Kingdom, but you can still see Epcot, or facing out into open space, but you can see Epcot. Well, I was in one of those, but I could sit on my little patio and see. Man, Spaceship Earth, man, it was gorgeous and beautiful, and you could see the rides and everything. It was an incredible view in that room, and so, like I said, it was small.
Mm-hmm.
But being by myself, it was more than adequate. It was phenomenal. So, and then that day, let me see. That day was when that's when I decided was going to meet up with a friend of mine, Chad, from the My DVC podcast. And so we were just going to meet back on the boardwalk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Skyliner goes directly from Riviera. One of the units that goes from Riviera goes straight to Epcot. So I just hopped on a Skyliner. I was at Epcot within about 12 minutes. Got off and started walking around boardwalk and went over to Beach Club, Beaches and Cream. I had tried to get a reservation there. Of course, as always, it was booked out.
Right.
But I went up to the walk-up window and got a walk-up window. I got a root beer float. I was going to get the mini. They do a miniature version of the Mickey sink.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
They do a smaller version from the walk-up window. But
Nice.
When I saw one go out, I went, "That's not small."
That's still too much.
I'll be in a sugar coma. There's no way. So I didn't do that. But I did that, and then we ended up eating at. Well, then he ended up getting hung up in Epcot, so I went over to there's a quick service at the pool at Beach Club, and I ate there. There too is where I talked about dining. The difficulty with dining was usually in the resorts. But outside of the resorts, even though some restaurants was closed, there was always multiple open. So there was probably 3 or 4 on the boardwalk open, several that were open inside of Epcot. A lot of them, New York Guest and others were open in Magic Kingdom. So anyway, so I just spent the evening kind of hanging out on boardwalk and finally got together with Chad actually back at my resort. Because he was taking the Skyliner, he was staying at Pop Century, so he Skylinered with me to Epcot, and then from there to Riviera, and then from there he could get back to Pop Century, and that was my second day.
Fantastic. Brian, I'm going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon, but I want to know your Murphy bed.
Yes.
Was it a comfortable bed?
Yes, very comfortable. Have you had a chance to stay at the Art of Animation studios yet?
I have not.
Okay. So those are very much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when it folds down, it is a full-size true mattress.
Oh, okay, great.
So I won't say it's a pillow top,
Mm-hmm.
but it was soft and very comfortable. It was not stiff. It was not. That's one thing with Disney. Even their fold-out couches are shockingly comfortable. Normally, you say you're going to sleep on a fold-out couch, and I tell them I'll go sleep in the yard. Because
right. I'll be in the car.
They're horrible on my back. I mean, I hate those things. But no, the bed was very, very comfortable. Yep, not a problem.
Awesome. Well, Brian, I need to wrap this up, but I need to know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, nothing to be sorry about.
Too much detail into it.
No, this is great stuff. But what's your take? Would you recommend somebody go now? What would you say? What would be your recommendation to somebody who's thinking of going?
Yeah.
Sure.
So if you don't mind, I will go ahead and include the last park, but I'll do it very fast.
Okay.
The next day, I went to Magic Kingdom. I was originally going to go to Hollywood Studios because I didn't think I could get everything done in one day. And when I was able to, I went, what the heck? I'll go to the Kingdom so I can see what it's like for my clients. The bus, no problem again. First bus on, got directly there. I actually went an hour late, so it was very open. Got into Magic Kingdom. and literally rode everything that basically, as far as I can tell, I rode everything that was open.
Nice.
13 minutes, 14 minutes, 5 minutes, walk on, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I saw the shows. I rode Dumbo. I rode stuff that, why would I ride this without a kid? Barnstormer, you know. But I was trying to see, and had lunch, and then I was out of the park by 3:30. So
all your days you ended very early. I like that.
Yeah, that was what, and I think that's part of the reason when somebody says, well, how were you able to do that in the Orlando heat with a mask? I think that's a lot of it, Tim.
I think so.
Because I was just done before it would start to get really bad.
And like you said, you're in and out of air conditioning now quite a bit, especially with no lines.
Yeah, and sometimes, and because you're not having to think in terms of, oh, I got to plan this out because that ride is going to be bad. You have to tour plan your days if you don't want to spend all day walking back and forth or standing in long lines. Well, everything was a short wait. Mm-hmm. So when I'm standing in line for something or I'm feeling a little hot, what do I go do next that's indoor? It's just, here you go, carousel of progress. Let's go do that.
Why not?
And, yeah, so it worked out really good. So back to your question. Would I recommend it?
Yes.
And this is what I've said to several people that have asked. This particular trip will not be the most memorable trip I've ever taken because I was by myself.
Right.
And listen, I'm a Disney addict. I love Disney. But the main reason I ever fell in love with Disney is my kids and my family, my wife. I mean, it is something we share together. To be there without them was a little odd. And so it wasn't the most memorable in that perspective. But as far as being the most enjoyable, that may have been the single most enjoyable Disney World trip I've ever had. And I've probably been there 15 to 20 times now.
Right. That's an awesome takeaway.
Yeah, it was just, listen, folks, if you're comfortable traveling with everything that's going on, and by the way, my plane flight, I was never nervous. They did a great job, at least on the planes I was on. Airports were great. Everybody was wearing their masks. Everybody was being good. I say everybody as much as I could see. So as long as you feel comfortable and you feel safe, I think if you can pull it off, this is a time to be thinking about doing Disney World because the rooms are available. They've got some great discounts that just came out. And the crowds are small. The crowds are small. They are looking like they're picking up in the fall, but even at that, there's still going to be nothing like you've experienced in the last 15 years at Disney World. It was just I was never tense. I was never anxious. Very relaxing and enjoyable.
Might be the best time.
Go again. Actually, I'm headed in October with just me and my daughter on a daddy-daughter trip. So
that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can take a Disney trip, with a family, have it be a little, less anxious and more enjoyable, why not?
Yep, and not nearly as stressful, and do everything you want, and not have to feel like you got a commando every day in the park. Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot what that felt like at Disney World.
Well, Brad, thanks so much for sharing your trip with us.
Yeah.
Brad, if anybody has any questions, wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can usually, if you have questions, usually you can reach out to me there in the Resort Loop Live Facebook page. But also if you wanted to reach out to me directly, papamouse101@hotmail.com. And I'd love to answer any questions you might have about the parks or the experience and any input from others that have gone. Let us know at Resort Loop. We're trying to keep people informed, and it's a very different world and experience now. So we'd love to hear from anybody else that's been to the parks.
Absolutely. Once again, Brad, thank you very much. I'm Tim Scott. Facebook, Twitter, the website, ResortLoop.com. As Brad said, Looper Nation Live over there on Facebook. Everybody, please go out there and share. Gateway to the Magic. Take us out.
See you, everybody.
Vacation memories will stay with you and your family for a lifetime. The Resort Loop Travel Group was created with this in mind. Our fee-free services will relieve you of the stress and confusion of finding and booking the best vacation at the best price. After booking, we will continue to monitor for ways to save you even more on your vacation. We will check for any upcoming packages and discounts to save you as many vacation dollars as possible. Resort Loop Travel Group, gateway to your magical vacation memories. Get a quote, or for more information, visit ResortLoop.com.